Alright, it is freezing today. It's like 20 degrees right now. The only good thing is it's supposed to warm up or be sunny all day and warm up to about 32. But the rest of the week is going to be in the 40s. So we're going to get back at the porch today. And I'll just kind of show you where I left off. Kind of left you guys off here at this detail here. So I got a 2x6 going from the house over, and then I got rafters that I tied in. They're about every 20 inches. But now I got to start framing up the roof. So what I need to do now is make joists that sit on my girt right here and go across and sit on my beam. So that measurement is 94 3/4 to there. I got to add 1.5 inches so it actually sits on there, and I'll also put some hangers so it'll be good and strong. So I'm just gonna work on this little section here this morning. It's probably gonna start getting, ice is gonna start melting off the roof and coming down on me, but so I'm gonna get those cut, put those up, and then we'll start on the rafters. So alright, so this porch, I'm going to put a hip end on it. I just think it'll look a little bit nicer for what I'm looking for. And I got all my rafters up on this side of that entrance. So I got one up here against the house because it's going to slope towards the end here, and then it'll slope off the front. And I made this square, and this middle rafter, the angled one, I made that 3.5 inches taller than my regular rafters because I'm going to butt my purlins right into those and toenail them in. I think it was just, for me, it was the easiest way to figure it out. So I'm doing a 1-foot overhang, and my fascia board will attach to the end of this. So you got to measure out 10.5 inches, and then that 1.5 inch fascia board will give you your 1 foot. So I usually mark them and then start my nails. Getting tired. See this a little bit better now up here. You can see how I set that up 3.5 inches higher than the other two. That way all my purlins will butt into that. It was the easiest way to do it. So I can just let this board sit on that corner. So we're going to put this last overhang jack on, and then we'll start putting up purlins. Alright, good morning everybody, and this morning I'm starting out by putting purlins on this half of the porch that I got my trusses made for yesterday. and you got to make compound cuts, which are tricky. I mean, even to this day, I don't do them a ton, but they can be a little bit confusing. And so what I like to do is I like to make a little template board, so I know that I got my cut right before I cut my my other actual boards that are going to go up, and it just saves you a little bit of time. So I know that this roof of right here is at 45 degrees, so I know I'm going to be close at 45 degrees. Now, since my board, my 2x4 purlin is at a slant, that will change it a little bit, but 45 degrees is a good starting point. And I also know that my pitch of my roof here on this other part of the porch is 512, which is 22.5 degrees, which will also give me a good starting point. So that's what I'll start at. I'll kind of put it up there, and then I'll adjust it accordingly. And I found that the perfect fit here, as you can see I've written there, is 47 degrees for my one cut and 15 degrees for my other. And then I put those together, and then I'll have a good fit. So you know, sometimes you just have to mess around with it to get it perfect, but you want it as close as you can so you have a nice tight fit there. You're going to have like in my case here, I'm going to have plywood overlaying it. It's going to be good and strong, but that's what I like to do, is make a template board so I'm not carrying this big board up and down and then having to get it back down to adjust my cut. So just a quick little tip. Alright, so when you're doing your compound cut with a skill saw, you can mark your one angle on your board, which I have. That's my 47 degrees, which I'll follow with my saw. And then the second part is the angle of your blade. As you can see there, it's canted, and that's what I have set at 15 degrees. So I'll get both my angles in one cut. So you mark one on your board, and then your other part of the compound cut you put on your saw. So now we're going to do the fascia boards. And once I get all the fascia on, then I can plywood all this. So the way I do fascia by myself, because how does one guy lift up a 16-foot board? It's very difficult. So what I do is I'll just take the corner of my board and I'll screw it into the end of the overhang jack, roughly where I want it, and then I'll swing this end up, get it leveled up, then I'll come back down here and screw this one where it needs to be, and then you just have to trim it in the middle of the overhang jack. It's a little extra work, but when you're by yourself, you kind of got to think out of the side of the box. So that's what I'm going to do now. I got that one secured, so I'm going to swing it up and fasten the other one. Alright, here's my hip for the end here. Pretty much done with this part of the roof framing except for the plywood. I got my fascia board all on right here. I got these brackets here. And then I also toe-nailed these joists into this 6x6 beam. And then on that side, you can see right down below, I have those, they're a type of hurricane uplift tie. But I will also do some additional framing. It's probably not necessary, but I want to make good and sure that this is really solid, because this is all going to be open underneath here, so a lot of air and wind's going to come up in here, and I just want to protect it from uplift. So alright, I'm going to show you guys how to cut a rafter. So the first thing you need to know is the pitch of your roof. So once you know the pitch of your roof, and my house and garage are 512, and I wanted my porch to be as close to 512 as I can. It's going to be just under that because I want so much room under these upper windows up here. And to get a 512, it makes it too tight. I want a little bit more room. So I know that I'm going to be between a 412 and 512 pitch, and the degree that I figured out is 20 degrees. So a 512 roof is 22.5, so I'm just below that. Using the Pythagorean theorem, if you know your run and your rise, you can get the top length of your rafter. So from there down to there, you can get that dimension. And that's really the only dimension you need. So if you know the run and the rise, you can get that angle right there. So I know I've done that math, and I know that my angle is 101 3/16. So I'll show you how we do it over here when I'm cutting my rafter. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut, or you're going to mark the rafter that goes up against the house. So that's this end. And I know that you can either do it with a square, you can either use the common roof pitch mark, or you can use degrees. So in my case, I'm using 20 degrees. So come to the end. I don't know if I can show you this. I know that I want to use 20 degrees. This is my pivot point. This is going to be what's up against the house right here. So I need to rotate this until 20 degrees is at the edge of my board. I'm just going to rotate it like this. And you can see 20 degrees lines up the edge of the board. Once you have that lined up, you can score a line. That is what's going to sit flush to your house. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. Now I got this cut. This edge right here is what's going to go against the house. So I know doing my math that my top, this is the top, my top measurement is 101 3/16. It's kind of hard to do holding the camera. So hook onto that top edge, come down, and we're going to mark 101 3/16. Once we got that, we'll square it up a little. You're going to put your square once you got that top measurement marked, which is right there, you're going to put the pivot point of your square back on that, and then you're going to do the same thing you did up there. You're going to angle it until you get the pitch or the degree that you want. In my case, it's 20 degrees. So once I get that, I'm going to come and I'm going to score that line. And what this is for is so you can get that angle cut right that you put on the bottom of your rafter. After you got that, you're going to line the edge of your square up on that line. Make sure you're nice and straight. It's hard to do with one hand. Then you're going to score this line. And then once you got that, you can take, I got this longer square over here. You can take a straight edge, or if you have like a rafter square like this, and you can extend that line all the way out. And then that'll be the part that sits on your 2x6 joist. So hopefully that made sense. The key to this is making sure your math is right. You got to know the pitch or the angle you're trying to accomplish, and your math has to be right. If your math is not right, your angles aren't going to be right. And if your angles aren't right, you're going to get super frustrated. I've been there. And honestly, this just takes practice. So my line, that was my measurement where I wanted the top of my rafter to line up to. So what I do to hold them in place is I run a screw right through the top in there, and then I toe screw them right there and on the other side. And then later I'll come back and put a hanger on them or tie them together with that bottom joist. Now I'm going to go out here and screw that in there. You can see that turned out pretty good. They're not going to be absolutely perfect. Once you screw this down, it'll suck that little gap down here, but so I was having trouble with my fascia boards, and most of that is because they've been sitting outside for a couple months and some of them have warped. So what you can do if you're dealing with warped fascia boards, what I did is I cut these 2x6s here. So from here to the edge, my board is 12 inches, so I know this is 10.5 because I have to subtract 1.5 inches. So this is 6 inches, this is 10.5, so I cut these 16.5 inches. And then you can see I just flush them up on this side, and then I put those in different, basically, you know, every 5-6 feet. I did them up right there, but and what that does, that helps you, gives you additional nailing points. Where there was a joint of a fascia board, I put 2 on each side, just so I had something good and solid to straighten that board out with. And I use screws when I put my fascia boards in because it sucks them up tight. But just a little tip, if you're having trouble keeping your fascia board straight, a quick and easy way is just to cut a bunch of template boards, nail them in. I just used my air nailer, nailed them in, and then I know I'm going to have a perfectly straight line, and I'll get the twist out of the board when I put them on. So the next thing I got to do is sheet this. And this morning when the ground was frozen, I moved all my plywood over here closer. It's a little muddy now to do it, but tomorrow my goal is to get all this sheeted. So I'm going to get out here, try to get out here early while the ground is frozen and get this plywood up here and get this done. So it'll be a big project done. And then I can start finishing up this steel. You can see I stopped the steel right about there because my next piece has to go around the porch, top of the porch there. And then I can run all my metal along here and then everything down below.